Hey guys, welcome to Podcast vs. Player. This is the first part of our discussion about the brand new Avengers Age of Ultron.
Today, we're going to be talking about our favourite scenes from the film, our favourite characters from the film, what we liked, what we didn't like, although there's not a lot of that, and ideas of upcoming things that could happen in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, including TV shows. I saw it last week because I'm amazing. Dan saw it last night because he's only just a little bit less amazing.
Well, I think you saw it on Sunday, didn't you?
Friday.
Oh, was it Friday? Was it the day it came out? Oh, right, well,
no, it came out on Thursday.
Oh, did it?
But I had work, so...
Yeah, I was going to book a day off, but unfortunately someone on my team is off as well, so I can't double book, which is quite annoying. But I would have done on Friday as well, to be honest.
Was it worth the wait, though, Dan?
Well, I'm going to tell you about the experience that I had before I talk about the film at all.
Okay.
So we got there nice and early. Went with a friend of mine. We gone to see it in IMAX. Obviously, got to be done.
Good lad.
Yeah. He got the best seats in the fucking house, like right at the back, dead centre, perfect view. No one tall sat in front of me. So it was like
Is there anyone taller than you?
Well, when sat down, someone's got a big head or a hat or something.
I suppose.
But so there was no tops of heads like at the bottom of the screen or anything like that. If I was, if it was like a pirate film, there's like those heads that are just sort of like perpetual boobs at the bottom.
Yeah.
None of that. So that was brilliant. Film starts at 8:30. Turn up, get in there about 20 past, so like pretty early. It's like 15-20 minutes of trailers, and it seems to want to continually remind you that it's in IMAX. So that like every other trailer, it says, "Don't forget, this is in IMAX." Here's another brilliant looking picture. This is fucking IMAX. Then the film starts. About 20 minutes into the film, a group of about 8 people turn up. 20 minutes late to the film, so about half an hour to the actual fucking start of it. And then they all sit along the back row directly next to me. They smell, they talk. And it's like, for fuck's sake. After about another 20 minutes or so, they just shut the fuck up. But yeah, the overall experience, not well received, to be honest. Everything was absolutely fine. There was about 25 people in the entire cinema, went to see it, which I thought was, quite small considering it's only just come out. It's big news. But they just fucking sit directly next to me, of course. They can't just sit, a bit further down the aisle or, their own front or something. No, it has to be right next to me. So, the sort of first 15 minutes or so of them being there, I couldn't really concentrate as to what was going on because I was so busy containing myself to not just turn to them and just go, "Well, you just shut the fuck up." But it would make matters infinitely worse, of course. So I just had to sort of grin and bear it. But when the film sort of kicked in, more so than usual, they all kind of shut up for a bit.
Well, my experience was a lot better than that.
I think most people's will be.
I had a 8:30 viewing, IMAX, but I got there like 7:45, so I just milled about for a bit, went to Starbucks and that. Got in there, had really good seats, bang in the middle, but all the seats are elevated, so no matter who sits in front of you, unless they're 8 foot tall, it doesn't matter.
That's nice.
So it's really cool.
Yeah.
There's only 3 trailers.
Wow. And
everyone was quiet, nobody had phones out or nothing. It was really good. And to make it even better, I got there, like I said, 7:45, got out about 20 past 11. Guess how much my parking was?
Nothing.
£1.
Woo!
Bargain.
Our car park was free.
Well happy.
So that's fine.
Sure.
I win. Woo!
You didn't drive there. But anyway, that was our experience watching the film.
Considerably better, yeah.
First initial question, Dan.
Yes.
Favourite scene?
Favourite scene?
By the way, spoilers if you haven't seen.
Oh god, yeah. Obviously, immense, enormous, big, stinky spoilers for this, without question. Favourite scene?
I thought you'd have had one straight away.
Do you know what? So did I. I honestly thought I would have done. Obviously the Hulkbuster fight was fucking brilliant.
Yeah.
Like, that was just, it was so well
It
paced.
exceeded my expectations. That scene did.
Absolutely. I thought it was just going to be a bit of a romp in the street.
It went on for a good maybe 15 minutes or so, didn't it?
Well, yeah, I mean, considering it wasn't just on the ground, it was in buildings, it was on, flying through the air, and it was like that, like, whole cage thing that, like, drops down. Like, the whole thing. I love the fact that the Hulkbuster armor wasn't just something that he just calls in. He's in a satellite in space.
Yeah.
That has to get fired down.
It's got the extra thingy bit, so like every bit of armour Hulk rips off, it just sends another piece down.
But like a better piece. So like when he's doing like that jackhammer punch thing into his face.
He's like, go to sleep, go to sleep, go to sleep.
It's so funny. And like when he like uses like the super punch and just belts him in the face and he spits a tooth out, he just goes, I'm sorry. And he's just flying through a building. That whole scene was brilliant. Like, I think they did sort of do a little nod to, the Hulk Thor fight, where he just punches him and just like after they've taken down that massive thing and they end up with the train set, and he just punches him in the side of the head. Like,
there was on the Avengers Assemble cartoon, it's on Disney XD. I watch it in the morning with my son, and there was a scene where Hulk and Thor were stood next to each other, and Thor says something, and then Hulk just stands there, and he goes to punch him like he does in the film. But Thor puts his hammer up, so he just goes boom. It's quite funny. Made me laugh.
That's the thing, though. There was, although it was sort of like character humour before. It was just sort of like conversations, and Tony Stark could be a bit sarcastic or something.
Yeah.
In this, it was extended out so much further, but not in a way that it kind of ruined it. Like, when Thor throws his hammer at Quicksilver and he just dodges out the way and then catches it and goes, "Whoa!" and just gets pulled along with it. That was brilliant.
That was my favourite scene.
Yeah.
When he's running past the hammer and he's just like, ooh, and then grabs it. That scene, and then you're probably going to disagree, but that exact bit I thought was better than the Quicksilver in Days of Future Past.
No.
That scene was phenomenal.
I love how they've done Quicksilver in this. I didn't think it would, just that whole scene from Days of Future Past, that sort of summed up what he could do.
It summed up what he could do, but I think this was a better version of Quicksilver.
I think it was a more accurate version.
Yeah,
for sure,
definitely.
But
his voice was amazing.
Yeah, well, it's
I forgot he was British.
Yeah, he's kick-ass.
Yeah, but I mean, like his where they're from now.
It's basically it's a made-up town again, I think. But it's
it's basically like Russia, isn't
Slovakia kind of place.
So, yeah, that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
it was such a good accent.
Yeah, I don't know. I like the fact that they went to Wakanda. I loved Andy Serkis, even though he's in it for like 2 or 3 minutes. I still think
he played Claw really well.
Yeah, he did a really good job with that. Vision, I thought, was
underused.
I'd say so, but the fact that, because I thought he would just be CGI, but the fact that they've actually just dressed up a dude, you couldn't tell, like when it would switch between it, and like the cape and everything it had was just like it was made of skin or something. It was just
glorious,
so well done. But as for a favourite scene, I'd say probably the opening scene.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Like
with the snow and the jeeps, and it is as the Avengers you'd think would be when they were a proper team. It doesn't matter what you throw at them, like the other one will have their back. And I just think that was such a good opening.
That the bit with Captain America when he's on his bike and he just like jumps off and flips and just launches the bike.
Yeah, and just slams it into that jeep.
That was so good. But it was. I can't actually remember now if it's on that bit or a bit later on. But when Banner's in the jet and he hears like all the commotion and he's like, "Oh no, it's when they're in Wakanda." He's like, "Guys, is it ready to go green?" Jamie to go green.
Yeah, like when he's with Natasha and they're just like, "Look, we'll just go. They've got it. We'll just go." And she's like, "Yeah, okay." And then just pushes him down a hole. I was just like, "No, what are you doing, you idiot? That was your perfect get-out chance. What a fool!"
I must say, I don't know how I feel about that little romance.
No, I really don't like it.
It seemed very forced.
Kind of. It was just like we need to have a romance element, and the fact that they've obviously built up a Hawkeye story, but they've kind of, I think they've done pretty much what the audience has been doing, and they've just made it quite obvious. It's like, why are you here? Like, these people, look at the things they can do, and you are just a guy with a bow and arrow. And that's what he says. He's like, I am just a guy with a bow and arrow.
Yeah.
I don't know why I'm here, but
well, it's a very good line though when he's talking to his wife and he's like, "Oh, you're afraid that they don't need me?" She's like, "No, I'm afraid they do need you."
Yeah.
And it puts it in perspective. You've got a god, you've got a fucking raging Hulk, you've got a guy in an iron suit, you got a superhuman soldier. Even Black Widow is like 10 times more important and valuable than Hawkeye.
Yeah, definitely.
Yet they all need him.
Yeah, they do.
And I must say, after the shit tip that he did in the first Avengers, I really liked Hawkeye in this film.
I think they've put a bit too much focus on the whole family story thing. I think it was a brilliant reveal when they just said, "Oh yeah, we're going to my house," and they're just like, "Wait, what? You've got a kid? What?"
Yeah, but I think they did it. The way I got it was, I knew someone was going to die. I had my suspicion too it was going to be. But because they was building on his family, and he was like, "And when I come back, I'm gonna decorate the dining room. I'm gonna turn this room." It's Hawkeye's gonna die.
Yeah, or they're gonna blow up his house or something. Yeah,
something's gonna happen. And I genuinely think that's what Whedon was doing. He was building everyone's anticipation of this guy's gonna. He's the only one with a family, and he's got kids and stuff, and now he's gonna die, or they're gonna die. And then it turned out it wasn't.
Yeah, I do quite like how they killed off Quicksilver though, because I mean,
I don't.
I think that, because I mean that's the thing, like the jet that Ultron's flying, the Quinjet, brilliant. I like the fact that they don't ever mention Quinn again, apart from the fact that he's got a Quinjet. But you know, like the minigun thing on the front of that, you know, I mean that thing fires like thousands and thousands of rounds a minute. You just wouldn't be able to get out of the way of them.
No.
So I mean,
again, he did it. At that point, I thought it was going to be Hawkeye. He sees that kid.
Yeah, and he's just going to take the bullets.
Like,
yeah.
Fuck's sake.
Yeah, that little face he pulls was just like, bollocks. It's like, well, we're going to die. I'm going to try and protect him a little bit.
Yeah.
And then he just comes in and it's just like, no, it's alright, I've got you. And then he's just stood there, just riddled in bullets.
He's like, didn't see that coming.
Yeah, that was fucking brilliant, yeah.
But that bit though, when he's run off and Hawkeye's got his bow and he's like, no one would ever know. I really miss that guy. I kind of liked him.
Yeah. Do you know what though? I think like the bit that got me the most, where I was just like, oh, that was really good, is when it's just after Vision has been created, and he's sort of like, you know, just sort of questioning as to who he is and what he's doing there. And then he just picks up Thor's hammer and holds it to him and says, "We should go." And everyone's just like, "What?" And like everyone in the audience was just like,
see, I'm not actually sure if Vision's ever picked up the hammer in the comics. The only ones I could, off the top of my head, is Captain America, and in a lot of the Avengers cartoons, Hulk's picked it up. But Vision, I'm not 100% sure on.
I think it was more of a statement of purpose rather than.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. I think it was. I don't think he was necessarily worthy. It was just the fact this is something that's so pure and.
Yeah, he can't possibly
naive.
be. Why don't they just use that as like a lie detector? It's just like, well, no, because no one would really be able to pick it up. I mean, Captain America obviously sort of nudged it a little bit, but even though that was on the trailer, I just loved that scene, like with them all just sort of just chilling out.
Well, it was slightly more extended, wasn't it? Because you see, on the full film, you see Thor's face when it moves when Cap does it.
Yeah,
but then he doesn't, and then his face is like, oh yeah.
Everyone creased at that. I mean, everyone must have seen it a dozen times in the trailers, but
yeah. It was really well done. But again, that scene when Ultron walks in, I still got goosebumps.
Yeah,
he was amazing.
Well, James Spader, who did the voice, I only realised when Rick told me, is that he was the main guy in a show called The Blacklist, which I'm super into at the moment, and I didn't even clock it. And I'm so glad that he told me after it was finished.
See, I knew I've never actually watched it, but I remember when it was revealed he was going to be voicing him. That was like one of the, like, you'll know him from Blacklist and
yeah.
shit.
But the thing is, he's got such a good, like, in the show, he's so charismatic, you know, and he's got, like, all these contacts all over the world, and they're all like, oh, it's Raymond, hello, Raymond. But then when he loses his shit, he will just kill everyone. And that's it, he's just like a machine.
Yeah.
But in this, I just thought, although I'm still kind of in two minds as to, you know, would a robot, you know, an AI robot, really be talking like this? You know, like when the Hulk jumps in the jet at the end, he's like, oh, for God's sake, and he just gets thrown out the back.
I think it's more character than... I mean, like, if you read the script, if it was in a comic, say, I don't think you'd get the same general feel of how he was probably talking. But I think it'd be nowhere near as good of a film if he was just talking like a robot. Because like even Jarvis kind of still spoke like Jarvis did, but he did develop more of a character.
Yeah.
But you have to remember though, Ultron is far more advanced.
It's true, and I mean, obviously he's just picked up, you know, whilst downloading the internet or whatever the hell he's done, you know, he'd been picked up in the same kind of way that they did with Transformers. You know, they just said, we learned your language through the internet, so we learn how to speak like you do. Yeah. So they've just kind of adapted it, and they've just said, well, if he was so intelligent, he would just speak like a normal person, if that's what he wanted to do. The whole flying the island up into the air to blow everything up,
it's very...
It's a long shot, considering... I mean, like, instead of, you know, trying to break nuclear launch codes, or just going and getting them, and just dropping them everywhere.
Which would be quicker and easy.
Yeah, his big plan was to get as much vibranium as he possibly could, and then just basically make a meteorite, and then fly it into the Earth and kill everybody. It's very comic bad guy. You know, it's just like one of those completely over-the-top plans, where it's just like, we're going to make an asteroid and throw it into the world.
I found it almost disappointing. It was enjoyable, don't get me wrong, but the build-up for this, like, ultimate villain, the most ultimate villain the Avengers have probably faced in the movies up to yet. I mean, Loki was obviously a formidable foe, but Ultron, it was, you kill Ultron and you'll just come back somewhere else.
Exactly, yeah.
It was seemingly, like, undefeatable. And then to go from that to, I'm going to do what they did in Days of Future Past with the football stadium.
Well, I don't know, I just see it as more like from Superman Returns. You know, where it's just
that's actually a better reference.
You've made a giant island in the sea, so I'm just going to lift it up and just fly it out. So, although I see the point of it, and it was obviously something where it's just like, well, there's nothing we can do, we can't stop it, and obviously we can't stop him because he's too powerful. And then we'll have to blow the island up in order to stop it. Yeah. So his plan worked. You know, they couldn't reverse it, they couldn't stop it. They just had to, you know, actually blow the whole thing up.
It still came down to exactly the same as the end of the first film, where Iron Man is the one who's, I'm going to sacrifice myself to save the day. And then, I'm not Iron Man anymore. But I will be.
Yeah, that's something that just was not touched upon at all, is the fact that at the end of Iron Man 3, obviously, takes out the arc reactor. Pepper, you know, she was a super fucking extremist soldier. She was apparently cured, which is just sort of brushed over. She doesn't make an appearance in this. No one mentions the fact that he hasn't got an arc reactor in his chest anymore, and the fact that he's still got an Iron Man suit, which is exactly what he said he was going to give up.
It's this I don't even know.
It's just like, well, I would have thought at some point they'd say, alright, so what happened to all the arc reactor? Don't worry about it. But they literally just not even... No, because they removed all the shrapnel, didn't they?
No, but I mean, like, he's still going to have his gaping hole in his bastard chest.
True, they just got a plug and just paper mache or something. And just...
He's like the most massivest emo ever. And he's just got like a really trendy fucking tunnel in his chest.
Yeah, maybe. One thing I do want to mention though is the fact that in the trailers that they were releasing, there's a bunch of stuff from the trailers that were just never even touched upon again.
I know Monday, I think it was said, like yesterday even, there is a ton of like deleted scenes on the like the home release.
I'd like to think that it was simply they were just giving people something to speculate about.
Possibly, yeah.
So, like, him emerging from, like, I think we said it as well, is, you know, he's sort of like emerging from like a molten metal pit. And we were just like, you know, it's going to be, we know that Wakanda's going to be in it. Maybe he's forging himself a complete vibranium skeleton, you know, so he can't be damaged.
There is an adamantium version of Ultron, so vibranium would have been obviously the only thing they could have used.
Yeah, definitely. So that would have made sense. But the fact is, it was just not shown again. And I just think that they put it in there just for people to say, well, maybe he's doing this. And if he's doing this, then it's from this story arc, which means that this is what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And then it just turns out that everything that everyone thought about it was just bollocks.
Yeah. It was, I'll be honest, one bit that I'm still unsure about, because I was actually going to bring up what you just said, so you just ruined that for me. But how dark was Black Widow's background, like for flashbacks?
Yeah, like the whole sterilisation thing.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. I thought she was going to be, like, you know, genetically enhanced, or they would have, you know, broken her bones to make them stronger or something. But it's just like, no, we've literally made you completely... but the thing is, though, in a twisted way, it makes sense. Because you're just like, well, the only thing that could ever stop you from being who you are and being what we need you to be is if you got pregnant and had a family. Because if you had a family, obviously you're going to say, in that kind of Kill Bill 2 kind of way, it's just like, I can't do this anymore now, I'm pregnant, you know. So if they just rip your entire uterus out, no chance of that.
I mean, one thing I'm not sure how it references, but I mean, like in the comics, she's brainwashed, she's given false memories, and she thinks, like, her memories are she used to be a ballerina. In this, it looks as though she was trained, but it was almost like the ballerina training was part of the assassination training.
Well, I know that it's that the whole Black Widow program was touched on in Agent Carter. So I might need to watch some Agent Carter, because obviously that all everything ties up.
Yeah.
So if it's touched on there as to what actually happens in the Black Widow training program, it would probably link up to what you were seeing in Avengers 2.
Yeah. There's also a big, massive Ultron connection in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I don't know what it is. I'll come back and read the article.
Yeah,
but I may watch that one episode.
Yeah, it would take a bit of getting back into, I think, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Nah, I'll give up on it.
Yeah. But potential, though. Future potentials. Obviously, we've got 2 Infinity Stones left to find.
Also, actually, just off that, does this mean that Infinity Wars is going to be the new Avengers team?
I was thinking that, because although I like the fact of a new Avengers, or, you know, they've sort of said we're going our separate ways, we're going to, you know, get some new people in. So there's like Scarlet Witch, Vision, Falcon. Excuse me. But I'd like to think that they're saying, you know, we're going to train them up. But by Infinity Wars, some of the new some of the new Marvel films will be this person, like in the first, you know, Iron Man, Thor, being recruited for the Avengers.
Yeah.
So, you know, like at the end of Ant-Man, say, you know, Steve Rogers turns up and it's just like, you know, you've done a pretty good job here. We've got a new team we're putting together. Have you heard of the Avengers? And then, boosh, that's it, it ends. Same way with Spider-Man. You know, you could just put Spider-Man in. You don't need a backstory, you don't need anything, you don't need a set-up film, you don't need anything. You just stick him in there and just say, oh, well, of course Spider-Man's in the Avengers. He's Spider-Man.
Yeah.
He's brilliant. Everyone loves Spider-Man. He's already in there. So it's more of a fleshed-out team.
I'd like it to be on top of what you've just said. Maybe part 1, like the new Avengers team, and then they're fucked. And then part 2, you have the old Avengers team with the new Avengers team and Guardians of the Galaxy.
Maybe, yeah.
Take on Thanos.
I think it would be. I don't think Civil War would be a good one for the Guardians to come into, but I think Infinity Wars would be the better one, because obviously space-based.
Well, it was. I got this feeling that, like, when Thor fucks off and then he comes back and he knows about the stones.
Yeah.
He's got to know that the other stones are out there.
Well, that's the thing, though. In Thor 1, I think it was. Yeah. The Infinity Gauntlet is shown. It is there with all the stones in.
Well, that's the other thing. How is this a different gauntlet that Thanos
it's the same one. Loki's in charge of Asgard now, isn't he? Odin's gone. Loki is pretending to be Odin. Loki was working with Thanos or Thanos.
Oh yeah, that's true.
In the first Avengers. He just gets.
It didn't look as medievally though. It looked quite tech orientated. This, by the way, this is the credits scene.
Yeah. But that's the thing, that's just where he's got it at the moment. So that doesn't mean that that's where he's taking it from. It means he's already got it at that point. But that would beg the question: if the Infinity Gauntlet was in the first Thor with all the stones in there, how did all the stones get separated?
It's true.
Because I mean, the Tesseract has obviously been around for 70 odd years, with them finding it in Captain America. Hold on a sec. Oh, excuse me. So if they, I don't know, maybe there's like a time difference thing with Asgard, and you could explain that it's just time difference. It doesn't matter. They can travel through time as well.
They're a day ahead.
I know, yeah, but if he found it and that already had an Infinity Stone inside it, then how was it? How was it about 70 years ago? And yet, in Thor, in the first Thor, it's already in there with the in the gauntlet, which means that someone must have taken the gauntlet and taken all the gems out and then hidden them everywhere. So they've hidden one, miles away in the galaxy, which is where Star-Lord finds it.
Yeah.
They stuck one in a scepter, which they gave to Loki. So they already had one, and they gave it to Loki. The other one is in a Tesseract, which somehow ended up back on Earth in World War II, for some reason. And then the other one ends up in that weird, mystical place in Thor the Dark World. So how the hell did that happen?
They'll explain it somehow. It'll be down to time and fucking time-space continuums and all other manner of shit. But more importantly, do you think Thor knows about the Guardians?
It's an interesting question.
Because out of everyone, he's the only one that could know.
Well, yeah, probably. Unless, Tony Stark has been tracking alien movement or something. And if he just says, back in the 80s, someone got, there was all sorts of alien nonsense going on.
Someone had the Walkman stolen.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting if he did already.
Well, that's the thing, though. No one knew anything about these. Everyone obviously knew. Well, anyone who sort of reads comic books at all knew what all these things were building up to. And then all of a sudden, Thor just turns up and he goes, "Guys, it's the Infinity Gauntlet. There's stones in it." It's just like, sorry, did you just go and Google this or something? What's going on?
Well, on back onto the Avengers Assemble cartoon. On this actual story arc for in the Infinity Wars, the Guardians do literally just appear, and because the Avengers have got all the Infinity Stones, and they want to take them away, but they do know each other in that. Right. Okay. And then they start fighting, and then Thanos comes.
Well, I mean, the Guardians would have to be in Infinity Wars then, because the Infinity Stone that they gave to the Nova Corps.
Yeah.
Which means that either Thanos is just going to show up there, or some of his baddies are just going to show up there, and they're just going to tear it apart and steal it, or the Guardians would be trying to protect it and follow them back to wherever it is, Earth maybe. They have to end up back on Earth. They can't just be in space, because that means that all the Avengers and all their new mates are all going to have to travel into space somehow.
Fantastic Four.
Yeah, that would be that would make perfect sense.
Yeah, it's not going to happen though.
Yeah.
No. Stalemate, sir. No, I was going to say, on a scale of 1 to 10, how likely do you think Civil War is going to lead off? Do you think it's just going to basically start with they've all disbanded? Or do you think it's actually going to carry on from the film?
I'd like to think that it would start in the premise of it. So they're already at odds, which means that the next Iron Man, the next Captain America are going to have to kind of set this up. Not by too much, because obviously you don't want to give anything away. But if you can get in, obviously there's Thor Ragnarok, but I reckon there's going to be another Iron Man, there's going to be another Captain America, and in that, if you just build in some new um, like allies and stuff, and then all of them come together. Because obviously in this one, all the sort of comic book heroes are put in there.
Yeah.
So everyone that's been built up is, makes an appearance in the end.
Well, Cap 3 Civil War though.
Oh yeah, true. Well, they'd have to do it in Iron Man, I guess.
But I don't think there is another Iron Man until after Cap 3. But they'd have to do it before, because they can't do the Mutant Registration Act because Disney don't own the rights to mutants in the movie universe.
Yeah.
They're called Miracles, and there aren't actually any. And they've changed, like Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch were experiments, not mutants.
Yep.
And they've actually changed it in the comics now, and they're no longer Magneto's children.
Well, it wouldn't make any sense to tie in with, the X-Men films so far.
Well, that's why they've done it, but because Disney have bought Marvel, they've changed the comics now, so there's no actual ties to each movie universe.
Okay, well, it's still condensing it down to, tie off loose ends and things that may not make sense.
I can see why they've done it.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's just the Fantastic Four comic, so
right, okay.
That's just knobbish.
But
no, but because they can't really do the mutant registration story because there's no mutants about to do it. I've got a feeling it's going to be more like government and political. So instead of saying you're heroes, you've got to give us your identity and whatnot. I think Iron Man's going to be the Avengers should be working for the government and this, that, and the other, and like heroes should be working for the government. And Cap's like, fuck you.
Yeah, but that's the thing, though. I mean, that is what happens. But
essentially, yeah. But obviously, it's more
in this, like the way that they've been shown in the films. Obviously, Captain America's the one to say, "No, I'm going to stay with Shield. I'm going to stay with the military. That's where I belong." And Tony Stark is always like, "Nah, fuck the government. I don't need them. You don't own any of my stuff. You're not getting it."
The difference is, though, Shield isn't the government. The government could be police force, army, this, that, and the other.
Yeah, but there is no Shield now.
Well, no, not now. Which would be the good reason why Cap wouldn't be on board with going to the government.
Yeah, because obviously Shield were completely eaten from the inside out.
Hydra.
Hell, Hydra! Yeah, but I don't know. I don't know how they'd sort of tie it all together.
They've obviously got an end game.
They must have, but I think that Civil War is going to be. I think they'll be introducing a bunch of new people, and I think with the fact that they had 8 or 10 different sort of established heroes and stuff in this one film, and it works so well. Like when they were all fighting together and everything, it just my fucking hair was standing up.
My biggest problem with it was a lot of the big fight scenes were too fast, with too many characters. Like sometimes you couldn't tell what was going on.
Well, I think that's why they put it in slow motion though. So there's robots flying about, and then there was people saving other people from being attacked from behind, and then it just sort of goes to show that they are using themselves as a team rather than everyone's just trying to fight with everybody else.
No, yeah, but I personally I'd have just liked to have seen it focus on a certain character for longer than it did. It tend to go from Black Widow to Iron Man to Cap to Hulk to Hawkeye to Thor to blah. When I'd have liked to have seen a few more close-up shots, a bit more fucking. It pains me to say it, but a bit more Michael Bay moments.
Really?
Not explosion stuff, just a little bit more slow down than there was. Even if it's just to show the impact of Thor's hammer or how strong Cap is. Which I will say, actually, there was a lot more moments where you saw just how strong Captain America is.
Yeah, like when he rips that log apart.
Yeah. When even in his own in the last 2 films, he's just been really trained.
Yeah.
Whereas this actually showed you that he has actually got super strength, which I really enjoyed. Yeah.
What do you reckon the odds are of introducing already established Marvel characters? Marvel film franchises. People like Blade, the Punisher, obviously.
Speaking of the Punisher, actually, there's a very, very, very strong possibility it's going to be in season 2 of Daredevil.
See, I was saying this literally yesterday. Like Rick, my friend who I went to see the Avengers with yesterday, we were talking about Daredevil because he's getting really into that. And I said that it is the perfect launch platform to get the Punisher back out there.
Well,
I mean, he's had 3 films and none of them were particularly good. But with the level of grit and violence and just how dark and grim it is, I think Daredevil is the perfect launch platform for him.
We spoke about it on the podcast.
We did.
And I think it'd be good to bring him in. Murdoch's not killing anyone. Punisher obviously will be killing people. And I think it'd be a good catalyst. Like, I don't know, they capture Bullseye or someone like quite big and dangerous, and instead of killing him, he hands him into the police or something. He gets out, he kills a load of people, and then the Punisher's just like, should have killed him when he had the chance.
Yeah.
And it might give Murdoch a bit more of a, should I actually be killing people to stop them?
Well, the Punisher, because I mean, obviously, where the Punisher, well, I won't say live, but is kind of based. I'm going to go out on a limb here. I'm pretty sure he's got a lot to do with Hell's Kitchen.
In and out, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I know he's based sort of in New York, but you know, Daredevil's sort of exclusively within Hell's Kitchen because that's obviously like the worst area. But I know for a fact I've seen it in Punisher comics where he's been there, and they do have, in some stories, they do have a friendship. Well, maybe not a friendship, but they certainly are aware of each other. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I think this would again be the same sort of thing. You know, if he could sort of call on Frank for, you know, maybe backup, or if he's just someone he knows that he can't take out. Or no, he could, but I mean, he knows that he can't let them go, or he can't just hand them into the police. They need to be gotten rid of. So he'd be like, Frank, got this guy. Can you just come around and shoot him for me?
I know it kills you a little bit every time I say it, but Punisher's not strong enough for his own show.
Well, the thing is, I don't think he's got, because he doesn't really have, I mean, he's got his backstory, but it's that kind of Batman backstory. In the fact of, he's just, no matter how you write it, that is what happens at the start. You know, you can't really alter that. His family have to be killed in order for him to just go fucking apeshit and turn into the Punisher. The same as Batman. You can't have Batman without Martha and Thomas Wayne getting killed. Yeah. There would be no Batman if you did that. So, because that is all that you need in order to make, you know, if you look at it from a sort of psychological point of view, in order to make, you know, a serial killer, really, they need to have this sort of like really horrific, traumatic element in their past, which just makes them snap.
Dexter.
Exactly, yeah, exactly that. And with him, you know, his entire family murdered in front of him. That would be the sort of thing that you'd click in your head and you'd be like, that's it. I'm not having this anymore. Yeah. That is it. And then you would just go on a fucking rampage. Whereas with Daredevil, obviously, he's got a reason for why.
But I don't think it'd be interesting, though. Like the first episode would be, but then it's just, I'm going to go out, I'm going to shoot this guy. I'm going to go out, I'm going to shoot this guy. I'm going to go out, I'm going to shoot this guy.
Well, that's what I mean, though. That's why I don't think, as a show on his own, I just don't think it would work in the same way that. Well, yeah, kind of, yeah. I mean, that's why I don't think the Punisher films have worked well enough as they have, because, I mean, some of them have got some things right, and it's okay, but for the majority of it, it's just not interesting enough, because whoever the bad guy is, whoever their enemy is, it is just going to be a guy. It's just going to be a criminal. That's all it's going to be. And there's always the only one way that can end, is that he shoots him, or he breaks his neck, or he stabs him, or whatever, but in the end, he will always kill him. That's how it's going to end. You know, there's no sort of build-up, there's no, you know, magic powers and stuff like that, because it just wouldn't be able to deal with it. But whereas Daredevil's got more of an interesting, you know, life, really. You know, he actually does things other than, you know, this is the same sort of two-faced, you know, he's a normal guy, but he's a hero on the sly as well. Yeah. So I think it would be easier to work him in to that as a sort of a background character who's just either present and an annoyance to Matt Murdock, or he becomes like, you know, if they do put him in there, obviously they will have to come to blows, because it will just be like, you can't just keep killing people. It's like, well, fuck it, I'm going to, so what are you going to do about it?
Yeah, if you don't kill me, then it ain't going to stop.
Exactly, yeah. So that I think that would be much better to keep him in sort of build popularity again for him. And sort of bring him in on something that's already well received.
Well, they are going to be making the Defenders, so he's going to have to come in at some point.
Yeah.
So better late than never. I don't think it's going to cross over into the MCU. I think if they bring him in, it's probably going to stay like on Netflix.
I am for the foreseeable future anyway. I think I'd have to agree. But the thing is, though, like you quite rightly said, is the fact that because of things like the Mutant Registration Act being taken out, that's a big thing in the Civil War story. That's kind of what starts it all up. People are saying, why do we need heroes? They're causing more damage than they are actually preventing. They're killing more people than they're actually saving, and because of them, other people are starting to stand up to them, which is killing more people, and it's just a vicious circle, and on and on and on. So if you take all of that away, then it would just be, we don't want heroes anymore. We just want, we just want normal people. We just want police. That's all we want. We just want people who are accountable for their actions.
Yeah.
And the Punisher is a big part of that, because he sort of comes across. If he wasn't for him, Spider-Man would have died. So he saves Spider-Man, and then he's obviously sort of in and out fairly quickly, because although he is sort of in the background taking people out to protect the Captain America's side, because it's not really gone into, but you can pretty much assume that he's on their side.
No, definitely, yeah. He's not going to be on Stark's side.
Exactly, yeah. Sort of government. How on earth could you give Frank Castle a badge?
Yeah.
It's like, well, you can't kill people. Well, I'm going to.
I'd be happy with that, though. If they bring him into Daredevil, and then in Civil War, he makes an appearance. He's not, even if it's like Hugh Jackman's role in First Class, he wasn't even credited for the role.
Yeah.
He just pops up, shoots somebody, and it's just like, and he just nods to Captain America.
Just slinks back into the shadows or something. Yeah.
That'd be ace.
Because that's, for all intents and purposes, that's pretty much all he does. He saves Spider-Man. He's with them for a bit. Some supervillains come in and just say, we're on your side. He kills them immediately. Captain America beats the shit out of him for a bit, and then he just leaves.
Yeah.
So, but that's the thing, though, because he's such a strong. He's got his own. Although it's twisted, he's got his own strict moral code. He doesn't hurt the good guys. He hurts the bad guys. So, Captain America's just beating on him, and he doesn't fight back. He just takes it.
I'll be honest, I think Cap would win. Hand to hand.
Well, I don't know about that. That just wasn't touched on. He's just literally got him up against the wall.
Of course he would.
Punching him in the face.
He's got super strength.
True, but, you could fight someone who's much, much stronger than you are, and you could still beat them. All you've got to know is how to fight them properly.
I guess, but Can't know how to fight. Anyway, that's a different fucking debate.
Yeah.
We've rambled on, sir.
Yeah. Final verdict.
I am going to give Avengers Age of Ultron 15 lollipop licks.
Okay, now in a scale that people can actually understand.
9 out of 10.
I'd have to agree.
The only reason it didn't get a 10 was there was quite a lot of questions left.
Yeah.
And I don't think Quicksilver should have died.
I think that I don't know. I mean, the death worked really for.
Oh, it worked really well.
Yeah.
I just wish they hadn't.
I don't know. I just think that the sort of the final thing, it's the island that just got me a little bit.
Yeah,
I would have. Do you know what would have saved the whole thing for me if it was just a vibranium bomb?
Yeah.
And because it's such a powerful metal and blah 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 sciencey stuff. And because of that, it's way more volatile than anything, which means that with the amount that you've got there, you blow it up and it will just decimate the planet. That would work.
Out of 10 then, basing it on your non-existent vibranium bomb that's actually just a floating island, what would you give Ultron out of 10?
I would also give it a 9 out of 10.
A 9 out of 10?
Absolutely. I think
there you are, 18 out of 20.
It is better than the first Avengers.
Definitely. I think it's better than First Avengers.
And I cannot wait to buy it.
I said this, and when I got home, Guardians of the Galaxy was on Sky, and I sat and watched it, and I was just sat there, and I love Guardians of the Galaxy, and I was just like, this ain't as good as Ultron.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. I mean, it's more about comedy and the characters and stuff. But yeah, as for Ultron himself, I think he was perfectly
Ultron
played.
was a 10 out of 10.
Yeah, but it's just like the little quips and things like that he'd have in that sort of low-key way of just saying, "Oh God."
Yeah.
Like, it's just sort of like you admitting your own defeat. He's just like, "Oh, fuck you again, god damn it."
It's very well done. However, we're going to go.
Yes, we could talk about this for quite a few more hours, really.
I think we should, really, but we're
probably.
going to
There's a load of stuff that I wanted to touch on.
We might do a part 2 then.
Yeah, probably not.
Should we do a... No? Okay.
No.
Dan shut me down. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, no part 2's come on. Jesus Christ, we were talking about fucking Daredevil, Punisher, Civil War, everything but the fucking film. Jesus.
Yeah, to be fair, we haven't spoke much about...
Yeah, but there's some incredible scenes in it. The CGI, perfect. Special effects are amazing. The helicarrier makes a reappearance with absolutely no warning, but again, it just works. It makes absolute sense in a stupid way.
If you haven't seen it, obviously you've left it
What
too
are you
late
on
now.
about? Yeah, for God's sake.
You've listened to the podcast if you've got this far. We've
Yeah.
pretty much spoiled everything for you. Go and see it in IMAX if you've got an IMAX near you. If you can, get D-box seats. It's like £1.60 more.
That doesn't really make... Our IMAX cinema didn't have that option.
Oh, mate. Ours did, but I'd already pre-bought the tickets. So...
Yeah, so thanks for just listening,
Anyway,
I guess.
yeah, thanks.
Stay tuned.